You're listening to a download from the outdoorstation.co.uk. Number 581.
So day 6, our $9 ticket to Siem Reap got us there on a very nice bus trip at around 11 a.m. and we were welcomed at the Sabara Angkor Hotel and Spa with a lovely iced tea and cold towels while they prepared our rooms. The hotel was definitely above our normal budget. We were sort of looking around $30 a time really for what we thought would be a reasonable hotel, and the couple that we met at the Coconut Lily, who had been here, suggested it and said it was well worth it, and I have to say we totally agreed. It was a lovely bit of luxury. It was on the outskirts of Siem Reap, very, very quiet, very comfortable. It had a saltwater pool, and the surroundings were definitely of the luxury variety.
It was lovely. It was just a lovely room. The room itself was big and airy, huge bed. There was a sitting area as well, and then the bathroom was huge and a lovely waterfall shower. It was really nice.
It was definitely well beyond our expectations living on a backpacker flash packet budget, but very worth it, and we enjoyed it, so we were glad that we'd booked in there. It did mean that we were slightly out of town, so we had to get a tuk-tuk everywhere, and the tuk-tuk journeys generally were about $1.50, $2, but it all went through the Grab app, so I'm looking forward to seeing the credit card bill when that's all finished. The rest of the day, I suppose we were fairly tired really, but the rest of the day we thought we'd pop into Siem Reap, have a wander around town, get a feel for the place. It definitely felt like the centre of Siem Reap was a bit of a party place with Pub Street, and it also, from the people we spoke to, was clear that this was really the beginning of their busy season, so we've caught it just right really. It wasn't too busy to wander around. Yes, we got hassled a bit for tuk-tuks and things, but it wasn't really irritating at all. But the centre of the town it had a nice feel to it. It had a nice sort of village feel to it, although it was quite large. What did you think?
Yeah, it was definitely a tourist area, but it was quite laid back. People there wasn't any real hassle at all, was there?
No, not really. We had a couple of beers in town and some food, which wasn't as good as we'd like it to have been.
We made up for that later, though, didn't we? Found some really good places. So.
Well, I was going to come on to that. But we sort of had spent the afternoon and day really talking about the mistake that we probably made when we booked the flights. What we had decided, bearing in mind that the flight was obviously November, but we'd booked way back in April, and when we looked at the options and the prices, the idea of flying in and out of two countries appeared to be on paper quite expensive. It was probably about another £150 a head each, depending whether you flew in or out of Bangkok, Hanoi, Laos or Phnom Penh. But in hindsight, it actually would have made a massive difference, because by the time that we had added up the additional travel costs of, for example, travelling north and then having to travel all the way south again to get back to Phnom Penh, plus the additional visa costs. If you went out of the country and you come back into the country, you're paying $30 a head for a visa. If you go out to Laos, you're paying $40 a head for a visa. Plus, of course, finally, the travel time, because you're basically increasing your travelling time and losing, hopefully, holiday time.
And it also became very apparent that there weren't links north, because we were hoping to cut through Laos up to Hanoi and come back down through Vietnam, but there just wasn't the infrastructure there, was the roads and things like that. It was just, you couldn't get from Siem Reap across very easily at all.
No, every bus journey was a day, basically. So we'd headed north out of Phnom Penh to Siem Reap. We would then have to head east to get into Laos, then north and then northwest to get to the centre of Laos, Vientiane. And then to get from there to Hanoi actually was a real logistic nightmare. And all these travel times and costs for those travels really add up. So if you're considering something like this and coming to this area, then do keep that in mind, that travel time, costs, plus extra visa costs all the time really do start to rack up the costs. So in all honesty, we ended that day going to bed a little bit cross with ourselves and a bit fed up because we couldn't quite decide what was the best thing to do. However, we woke on day 7 feeling more refreshed. I think probably a good night's sleep really helped after the travelling, and positives. So we both agreed that the best thing to do was book flights back from Hanoi to Phnom Penh, put up with the additional visa costs, it's only for a couple of days, so we could travel from back down to Phnom Penh, down to Ho Chi Minh, and then work our way up the coast of Vietnam, and therefore service our travelling desires and a bit of independence to get to Hanoi and then complete the loop that way. So we decided to start our positive day with a visit to Apopo, which I'd heard about on social media. Now this is where they train giant African pouch rats from Tanzania to search for landmines and explosives. Apparently their sense of smell is so sensitive they can pick up these things almost a metre deep, as well as horizontally on ground level, as it were. So I'll let our guide, Lekan I, do the introduction, and if you miss anything, I'll just clarify it afterwards.
Okay, so all of you here now, and I will introduce about the Apopo to you a little bit. Yep. Apopo is a non-governmental organization that we started at Belgium in 1997. And Apopo, we're using the rat to say the TNT explosive, and the rat they can smell TB2, the tuberculosis. But at some country that have them, like Mozambique or Tanzania that have them. In Cambodia, we have only rat for say the TNT explosive, like the landmine or bomb only. And the rat that we choose for training, we call African giant pouch rats. That are special than normal rat, because normal rat they can live around 3 years old and then they die. But for the African giant pouch rat, they can live around 8 to 9 years old. And we spend around 9 months to 1 year for training them. 5 years, 6 years, they spend to working to set the landmine at the minefield. 1 or 2 years more, they get retired. Yeah, when they get retired, no working anymore. They just eat and sleep and play. Okay. And for the rat, we have stuff for training them too. That's step number 1. We use socialization with them. Like we hug them and kiss them and let them to play around with us since they were 4 or 5 weeks old. And after that, we use clicker sound. Yeah, click and give the food to the rat. Click food, click banana all the time. So the rat they can remember when they hear the clicker from the trainer, they will get some fruit from the trainer too. And next time we want the rat to recognize the TNT, so we put the TNT powder into the TA container and then we put on the ground. And we have the other TA container too around here, but no TNT inside. The first time that we send the rat to go there, they don't know what is TNT. And they go many times, they start hungry. When they start hungry, they look to the trainer. Why the trainer don't click? Yeah, because normally we click and give food to them, but this time we don't click it until they go to observe the TA container one by one. When they go to the empty one, we still don't click. But when they go to the TNT one, we click it because we want them to recognize the TNT. So when they go to the TNT, we click it. And they're very happy when they hear the click sound from the trainer because they're hungry. Click it means food for them. So they run to us quickly to get some food from us too. So next time we want to know about the sign of the reaction of them. When they smell the TNT, how they do. So we put the TNT powder again into the TA container, but this time we put into the ground. So when we send the rat to go there, they sniff the TNT, they start scratching. Yeah, on the surface on the ground, the top of that TA container. So they're scratching like that, it means the sign of the reaction of them when they find the landmine or bomb. So for the handler, they see the rat scratching like that, they will click and give the reward to them. Yeah, we train like that again and again. And after training, we have a blind test or final test for them too. That we send them to the real minefield. Yeah, example, at there we have 5 or 10 landmines. So all the rats, they need to find all landmines. If they miss one, it means they don't pass the exam. Yeah, they will train one more times again, but almost of them they can pass exam. Yeah, they're clever. And for the rat, after they pass the training, yeah, for the training they will graduate too. Yeah, they have a big party. They have a lot of fruit like a vegetable, banana, or avocado, or watermelon, or something. Yeah, they enjoy eating together, and they have their certificate. Yeah, got a certificate and passport and a small hat that they graduate here. Yeah. It's a lot of people too when they graduate. And after that, we send them to other country for working or send here for working. The place that we train them, operate them only at the Tanzania, Africa. After they pass the exam there, we will send here for working only. And for the rat here, they're working only 5 days a week and 2 days holiday. Yeah, they have a weekend day too, Saturday and Sunday. They go to pub street, dancing and drinking together. And one day they work only 3 hours. Yeah, at the early morning, from 6 to 9 a.m. only, no more than that, because they don't like cold. For the weather in Cambodia, it's hot for them, and we put the air conditioner room for them to stay 24 hours in air conditioner room. That we call 5-star hotel for them too. Yeah, it's lucky life.
So just for clarity, the rats are bred and trained in Tanzania for a year. Then they're treated like precious jewels with 5-star accommodation, as she mentions. They can clear a tennis court of rough terrain in approximately 30 minutes, which would take 2 days or more using traditional metal detecting methods. The whole trip was fascinating, enjoyable, well worth a visit, and only $10 each. And even Rose, who was a little bit sus about the benefits of going to it, was actually quite impressed.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I was just... One, it was so scary how many landmines are used and are still there across the world, because it's not just obviously in Cambodia, left from Khmer Rouge. I mean, currently they're starting to work in the Ukraine. So their work is worldwide. And it just made you realise what a dreadful thing it is, all these bombs left behind.
Yeah, that goes back years for many countries. It was a great start to the day, very positive and very uplifting. So we were looking forward to continuing it where we could. We'd done a little bit of research the previous day and found a few things that weren't really mentioned that much amongst all the sort of usual touristy stuff that's available in Siem Reap. So we made a beeline for it, always ones to try and look for something a little bit different. The first thing that we went to, which was nearby Apopo in fact, was the Made in Cambodia Market. Now, as you can imagine, in Siem Reap and in fact in Phnom Penh as well, there are huge amounts of stalls of various sizes of people all selling the same thing. A bit like the outdoors markets these days when you go to them dotted around the country. It's as if you see the same traders or the same types of traders all selling the same hats, coats and accessories, boots and all that sort of stuff. And it's no different in the tourist trade, and it's certainly no different in Cambodia. Countless t-shirts, obviously with various logos associated with the area, and then all the usual accessories, the hats, the gifts, the giveaways, and all the things that you take back and then wear perhaps for one season before it disappears into the depths of your wardrobe. So we hoped that Made in Cambodia Market was going to be something a little bit more different and a little special, and I think we hit the spot there. Rose is very much the market person who particularly likes crafted items, so you were quite pleased we went that way.
Yeah, it really was. We actually picked up a few souvenirs to take home for folk. And they're just slightly more unusual bits and pieces, weren't there? There was sort of some... Silk's quite a good big thing, a bit like Thailand. Silk is a big item in Cambodia, but they had some woven silks, scarves and all the usual, but also some natural dyed ones with foliage print, and there were people making their own earrings and... all sorts of bits and pieces. There was also people selling their own homemade beauty products with natural ingredients, which I didn't realise apparently Cambodia is well known for. And another store that was selling different types of pepper. Compot pepper is quite important in Cambodia, so they had lots of different things made with that.
Yeah, I think, not that I was paying as much attention as you were, but I understand there's 3 different types of pepper, and apparently they're great exporters of the pepper. And certainly the silk products were absolutely beautiful, the patterning on them, all done with natural dyes, and the girl that was there explained the whole process and was very much part and parcel of manufacturing sequence, I guess. But it was good to see that creators were able to sell their wares directly and obviously get benefit from it rather than going through a middleman, which was excellent. The other thing to see, and I don't know the name for it. There was the guy that was hammering out the patterns in. I would think it was leather. Was it leather work he was doing? But very Cambodian traditional patterns, and it looked like hours and hours of work.
Yeah, wasn't it metal, like pewter work?
Yeah, I just remember him sitting there watching him doing it, and I'm thinking, is he making
punch work? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it's punching out patterns. Whether he was making a template for it to then be used for painting, or that itself was the item that then went into a frame, for example, that was formed a room divider, that type of thing. All sorts of work like that. So that was well worth a visit. And coincidentally, we then continued to another, a market, I guess it's known as, the artisan market, which was an extension of this, whereas the Cambodia market was very much the smaller independents. The artisan market was much more of a commercial enterprise, and the whole thing is an educational training injection of old techniques and methods for all ages really, but predominantly young people, with a view then to them be given a permanent job.
It was a training program for rural communities. So basically, obviously it's quite poor in the farming and work in the rural communities, and basically they'd set up an organisation whereby they could apply if they felt they were artistically able to become an artisan at their school. And what happened then, if they passed their entry with however it was, they didn't quite explain what they had to do, but some obviously process they went through, selecting children from the rural areas. I say children, probably teenagers, who then would go to the school, and they go in every day, and they would then choose their craft, because there was a whole range of crafts there, weren't there, from stone carving, which was amazing,
stonemason, stone carving,
sculpture,
beautiful
woodwork, carving. They had lacquer work, they had silk weaving and spinning.
They had painting, gold leaf application.
Yeah, that lacquerwork stuff, and the metal punching too. I think they had that there.
Yeah, they had that there too. And each skill, like stone masonry, stone carving, for example, had a master craftsman there, and he was responsible for rotating the trainees to make sure that they developed every particular technique. But they would take, for example, they had carvings or samples, the wood carvings and so on, or stone carvings, and they were using the calipers, and they were measuring and copying an old carving absolutely accurately in fresh material, and they were then being judged as they went along. But there was plenty of smiles in there, and no, it wasn't sort of slave labour, was it?
No, and it was nice to see some women in there as well, doing the stone carving and so forth.
And all ages again as well.
And again, yes. So it sounds like once they're there, they obviously progress and become a master eventually. But it sounds like they go in first thing in the morning. It was quite early, wasn't it? 7 or something. He said most of them live up to 20 kilometres away and come in. And they spend all day basically in the workshop, and then go home in the evening and come back again, and they do 6 days a week.
6 days a week, and there was no mention of holidays,
no,
apart from the national holidays that they take. But the talk that we went on, the walk that we went through the workshops, took lots of photographs, had a chat to people, saw that they were very happy doing what they were doing. They were very proud of what they were doing as well. That was very obvious. And we then completed the circuit, as it were, and came out, and then naturally they then took you to their exhibition stroke sales room, where the final products of some of the products that they were making was then on sale, and slightly out of our pockets.
Just a bit. I mean, to be fair, I mean, realising how long some of these items take, literally months to finish a piece, carved Cambodian elephant in full regalia. But they were a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. They're doing a lot of building work, so it was quite posh. And I noticed they had coach loads of tourists come in and go around. So it's obviously they're making like a tourist destination, aren't they? So it's in the hope, I think, of upping the sales, really.
Yeah, it's understandable. I mean, I presume there's a couple of things that are coming out of it. Firstly, when there's restoration work that a client perhaps wants to commission and they want X number of stonemasons, should we say, to do some relief or carving on their property, they probably would rent their services out, or they would be commissioned to make stuff to order. But I was really pleased that we took the time to go to that particular exhibition before we did the temples tour the following 2 days, because it really did bring into perspective just how intricate and how much work went into the temples, which we'll talk about later. The man hours to create some of the pattern work, which is just dismissed as background patterning and relief on these temples, is just phenomenal. And very much like a lot of these spectacles, when you see these temples, perhaps if you're lucky enough to see something like this in the future, just makes you realise how much time and years and, well, I presume money or whatever went into the creation of such epic celebrations of gods in whatever part of history. Anyway, we finished the day off. We left there, that's right, we left there and we went to get the tickets for the Angkor Wat temples. The ticket office is halfway to the temples, which is probably 20 minutes or so outside of town.
And we'd been told it was cheaper to go there and buy them, even with the tuk-tuk ride involved, than buy them online.
Yes, there was a saving. The transactional charges they charge you online, I think it's about $6 for a $30, $40, $50 ticket. So it adds up, obviously, times two. So we thought we'd make the most of the afternoon, which seemed pleasant enough. And if you buy the ticket and use it for the first time after 5 p.m, bearing in mind sunset's around 5:30 p.m, then it is included in the following day, as it were. So you get an extra viewing, if you like, if you're lucky to be in the right place. So we thought we'd do exactly that. And we took the tuk-tuk, got the tickets. That was fantastic, very easy, no queuing because it was almost the end of the day. Jump back into the tuk-tuk, take us down to Angkor Wat, see if we can get a sunset picture. So we drove off, and it is very, very dark and obviously surrounded by jungle and trees, very tall trees. So we eventually got to Angkor Wat, and just as we got there, and just as we got to the large moat which surrounds the main temple, the heavens opened up and it absolutely hammered down. Now, when there's two people inside the back of a tuk-tuk, you obviously got the little cover that goes over the top, and they've got these lovely little drop-down sides. And the poor guy was trying to drive the tuk-tuk, get these sides dropped down. I gave him a hand, getting it all zipped up. And it was just like the top half of us was dry, but the bottom half, the wind and the rain was blowing in. But anyway, here's some sounds of exactly what that sounded like for a good half hour while we turned the tuk-tuk round and headed back into town. There you go. And that is our first attempt at a sunset tour at Angkor Wat. Yes, it's heavily raining indeed, as you can tell. The other thing I forgot to mention, it was the end of a positive day, but probably a fairly expensive one, is that we also, following the decisions we'd made in the morning about what we were doing, we went to Giant Ibis, our favourite new bus service, and bought a couple of tickets which would take us back to Phnom Penh on an overnight bus, and then out to Ho Chi Minh City for the price of $52 each, which actually I thought was quite reasonable. And the 3-day pass that we bought for the Angkor Wat temples cost us $62 each as well. And we concluded the day with a visit to another restaurant, once again mentioned and recommended by the people we met on the Coconut Lily cooking course, called the Chandri Tree, which was at the top end, shall we say, the better end of the eating alternatives in Siem Reap, and that worked out at $40 for the pair of us. But it was a really good meal. Did we have 3 courses or 2 courses on that one?
I think it was only 2.
Was it 2? Main course and you chose the 2 puddings that you wanted to try, so.
I've got to try puddings.
So that concluded the day. So we ended fairly positive following a troublesome previous 48 hours, so that was quite good. And that probably brings this episode to an end. So we'll fill you in with the next story relating to the Angkor Wat day and some of the conversations that we had with our guide and somebody else, in fact. So until next time, take care. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To hear or see more from our extensive free library, please visit theoutdoorstation.co.uk.